Jesus spoke to them in a parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent out his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused. So he sent more servants and said to them, "Tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened cattle have been butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding." They paid no attention, went off, one to his field, another to his business. The others seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. And he said to his servants, "The wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. Go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find." So his servants went out and invited those on the street corners, and they came to the banquet. And when the king came in and he saw one guest who was not in a wedding robe, he said to him, "Why are you not in a robe? Cast him out, that he might not have beef." that he might not be welcome in our midst. The word of the Lord in the house of the Lord. Thank you, Ray. Everybody, thank you. I like that. We could have him do an encore. Ray played a gig last night and didn't get to bed till wee hours of the morning. We appreciate you getting up and share with it. Love it, thank you. We often keep our talents to ourselves. We have things that we can do. We have words that we can say that we don't bother because we think, oh, no one else is interested. Aaron sat before the people of Israel who said, we need something to focus on. We need something that we can look at and understand that God is in it. And so he said, give me all your gold and I'll make us an idol. And he had to do saddle for a calf because he didn't get enough gold to make an oxen. So he gave them an object to focus on. And so they came and partied. Oh yeah, they did the wedding, or they did the rituals, and they did all of the stuff that you're supposed to do at church. You know, we have our call to worship and we have our introit, and did all those things. And then they partied. And God said, I'm going to wipe them out. I've had it. And how did Moses convince him to not destroy the Israelites? He said, do you want those neighbors from Egypt to say, you see what God did? He pulled them out here and killed them. So he relented and let them live. He relents in our life every day. We worship things. We get distracted. We get sidetracked so easily. And fortunately, God remembers what Moses said. Do we want the neighbors to talk about what your people are going through? So he's with us when we need him. He's with us when we want him. The king threw a banquet for his son's wedding, and nobody would come. He invited him a second time. Nobody would come. And the third time, they said, don't just bring the invite, bring anybody who will come through the door. And one came and didn't put on a wedding robe. Now, we go to weddings dressed the way we want to, right? I love the story of the mother of the bride who bought a nice dress for her daughter's wedding, only to find out that her stepmother had bought the same dress to wear to the wedding. And her daughter went to her and said, I'm sorry, Mom, but you can't wear that dress to the wedding. And she said, that's okay. I'll just wear it to the rehearsal dinner. I could see every lady go, that's revenge. He asked the Israelites to come to his feast. And they turned him down. Oh, they came and nibbled and then turned him down, and he wandered them through the wild areas to the promised land, and they complained and carped and murmured the whole time. And they refused his open invitation to be one with him. And so he sent more servants, more prophets, more people to bring in those who ought to be one with him. And they murdered them one way or another, whether it be with slander and unkind words, or whether it be physically. But it was the wedding of his Son. It's God's waiting for each one of us to become one with Christ. And we're invited, and it's hard to accept that invitation. And finally he had everyone come to the wedding, and he dressed them all in wedding robes, and one refused to wear the robe. And he said to him, "You're gone. That was your last chance." He invites us to that same wedding, and he invites us to put on the robe. And the robe is simply an acceptance of the fact that he is the one who he says he is. He's the one who is the Son of God. And he expects us to accept that, to embrace that, to love that. And those who won't, no more chances. No more chances. Jesus taught in parables because people didn't understand the words of the theologians that were written out, of the psalmists and of the prophets. So he taught in plain language. No, he didn't. He talked in mysteries. He spoke in riddles to try to get people to understand the simpleness of his word. Now I've got one about that thick and probably 6 about that thick books on theology. And if you want to sleep well, I'll loan you a book. And none of the books on theology, they explain someone's point of view. But to me it's so much simpler. No need to write a big book. We have a big enough book to take a look at. But just to examine the parables of Jesus, who always taught with a message in it. He was the fable writer of his time. Always a moral to the story. And they came through a party for his son's wedding, and he invited us to be the bride. And many of us turned him down, over and over. But he kept inviting. He kept inviting. He kept inviting. And that's the amazing thing. That's the spontaneity of finally accepting the invitation. And when you have an evangelistic crusade, we went to a Billy Graham crusade in Soldiers Field in Chicago many, many years ago. We were newlyweds at the time, so it was a long time. And I didn't realize until years and years and years later that all of those thousands of people who come down from the stands to come forward to be saved is all programmed. That nobody will spontaneously get up and go. But if they see 100 people from their section going, oh, I can go with them. Because look at all these people that are accepting the invitation, so if I accept it, but there are thousands of people who attend each night who will go forward to be, quote, saved in order to lead those who are reluctant to be saved to come forward. So what we do as Christians, what we do as Mohave Valley United Methodist Church do, what we do is we demonstrate to people that this is a good place to be. And when you tell them this is a good place to be, come and be with me, they might do it. You can't go up and down the road and say, that's a good place to be, you go there. Because like the guests invited to the wedding, they're not going to show up. They've got other things to do. They can get in their boat to go up and down the river. They can take their sea-doo out. They can jump on their ATV and ride to the mountains. They got 100 things they can do. But the invitation that works, the invitation that God keeps giving to us is, come with me. And that's the parable of the wedding feast. Come with me. Accept what you find. And if it doesn't work, don't stay. But if you separate yourself from the Word, if you separate yourself from God, there may not be another invitation. There may not be another open door. There may not be one more chance. The horror of the shooting in Las Vegas points out that man's evil transcends our comprehensive ability. So what, 5,700 or 6,000? I don't know how many homes have burned now. And I can't comprehend that kind of tragedy. The city of Houston was flooded. I've not lived through that. I see it on TV, and then we go to commercial. The most important news of the day lasts 1.5 minutes, and then you get 3.5 minutes of commercials. This word lasts forever. No commercials. No commercials. You have your invitation to the wedding. But when you come, be prepared to put on the robe of acceptance, to put on the robe of belief, put on the robe of joining with God, that your life might be different than it ever has been before. Accept the invitation, but accept it fully. Halfway measures don't cut it. All that is, I don't want to miss a word out of this last line, I love it. What is noble, what is right, what is pure, what is lovely, what is admirable. Anything is excellent or praiseworthy. All of those things pertain to the Word of God. All of those things pertain to your invitation to be one with Him. Accept. Put on His robe that you wish to be welcomed in His heart. Amen. Number 396. Oh Jesus, I have promised. Will you stand with me at communion?